Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome. Oh my. Let's try that again. Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Boom. Did I mess up on purpose because of the point of this movie, or did I just mess up? Who knows?
Oh, shots fired.
No. You know what I mean. Like,
I
you
know,
gotta
I love
go
it.
back, fix mistakes.
Yep. The closed loop theory.
Indeed.
Yep.
So I will upfront just acknowledge, Ezra Miller is a person that needs a lot of help. And,
Yes.
people say that they are getting that help, so that is good.
Positive
I
sign,
mean, that's
hopefully.
positive. I still think that not enough was done to make me feel comfortable that people were taking this seriously, but
Yep.
that is what it is.
Mhm.
I will just be reflecting on the character of Barry, or the two characters of Barry.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, 3 characters. But I by no means am I trying to tacitly what am I trying to say here? Accept the damage that Ezra Miller has done to certain people's lives.
Yeah.
This
This
isn't me. Anything kind I say is not about like. So let's give this person a chance. It is just me reflecting on a movie I saw.
Yep.
My personal opinions, if they must be said, is I think that they as in Warner Brothers needed to just reshoot this with someone else, but they didn't. So here we are.
Yep. And I'm with you there. Nothing about this is condoning Ezra's kind
That's
of
the word I was looking
behaviors.
for. Condoning.
Okay, sweet. None of it is condoning Ezra's kind of things. Genuinely, as someone that also suffers from mental health issues and all that kind of stuff, I hope they get as much help as I've been lucky enough and privileged enough to get. I genuinely hope that they want to get better and they want to kind of be better. But you're right. Everything about this movie is, I'm looking at it purely from the professional standpoint, the standpoint that, I mean, I don't stand by them starring in this movie, but it's a movie that we got to review because it's our job. And well, we like our job. Every now and then there's a misstep, and this is one of those things, but we're looking at it purely from the artistic standpoint.
Yep. So moving forward, what did you think of the movie The Flash?
The Flash Across the Spider-Verse, baby. Oops, no, I don't know if I said that during our Across the Spider-Verse.
You said
thing.
You were interested to see
what
how
its
similarities were.
Yeah, and I think there are quite a few more, and I think where this succeeds is there's a lot less characters to deal with. Obviously, it only deals with one different multiverse, so it's very linear for a very multiversal story, which is very confusing to me. It's very confusing.
I mean, what I did was I went against last week guest Andrew Young's advice, and I did reread Paradox, the Flashpoint Paradox.
Flashpoint, yeah.
And
how could you not, right?
Yeah, so I
going into this,
Andrew, for people that don't listen to his other podcast, doesn't particularly like it, and he doesn't think it's worth revisiting.
Flashpoint or the Flash, the
Flashpoint.
Yeah, okay.
So I did anyway, just because I was like, I gotta see like what they take, what they don't take. And my feeling is, and it seems like you're a bit confirming it, but we'll probably get into it more, is that it feels like you would have to, even if you didn't care about comics, you would have to at least have a history with the movies at the very least that they're referencing. Like,
Yes.
if you don't know Michael Keaton Batman, I can't. Like, yeah, you'd be like, okay, sure. Or when George Clooney shows up at the end, you'd be like, if you don't know that he played Batman or like have any history with like how he feels about being Batman and what I feel is like really underpinning the sadness of that.
Yep.
Like, and you just be like, oh, okay, I guess George Clooney showed up. Like, I feel like you genuinely have to know. One, I think it helps if you've read Flashpoint, but two,
Yes.
I think you just need, and not even just Flashpoint, like you would need to read a bunch of stuff for everything to fully come together for you on this movie.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, like, yeah, you need to know the Snyderverse, really. Like when they start like spouting off stuff, you're just, I'm not saying this is impenetrable, but it just feels like when I hear people like Tom Cruise and Stephen King be like, this movie's amazing, I'm like, did you watch the other stuff? Like, how do you mean this is amazing? I guess what I'm saying is I enjoyed it, but I can't see people who aren't fans of like one of the like 10 things they're referencing being like, yeah, this was good. Like, if you're not like actually in on this, like, I don't think it's impenetrable. You would understand what's happening. He went back and like, just from like, but again, you still need to be aware of the movie. Like, if you know Back to the Future, you'll get what's happening. Like, it's not like you'd be like, oh, what the fuck? You just be like, oh, okay, they're doing Back to the Future. But like, I thought it was interesting because I think what the hype going into this is one of the best comic book movies. And for the first bit of it, I was like, yeah, like they're doing a good job of being a comic book. Like, I thought that was great. Like, hey, the Flash needs to go to work, but Batman's asking for help, and then they also need Wonder Woman to show up to like help. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like this is like a comic book. They're actually embracing the idea that all of these people actually interact with each other and share the same space. And we always like, I'm sorry to speak for you, but like I feel like we always like when that happens, when they're like, it's not just like, no, this is the solo movie. It is like, no, these are people that would call on each other. And you can have a reason why they're not there, but like you can't just act like they would never ask for help.
100%, especially for someone where we meet the Flash in the Justice League, where he's like, I need friends, is one of his takeaway lines.
And
where it's like, why would you
really
expect him to operate solo?
Like, and I still need them, and I'm hoping I'm hoping Ben Affleck Batman will be that, and he says no, and you're like, fuck. Well, this is the last time you're gonna see him, so that sucks. But I guess we should also say, kind of, the movie beyond being Flashpoint is Barry finds a way that he can go back in time. I feel like in the comics it's the treadmill or whatever, but in this he calls it something else, pretty scientific,
chronosphere, or whatever. Like, I don't know.
But he goes back in, which again makes it feel like they're playing off of Snyder Cut Justice League.
They are
Joss
heavily.
So I'm like it's just like, okay, so you need to know that too for
this
to be like, yeah, he knows he could do stuff with time. Because I think they even say, like, Ben Affleck even said like, oh, like that time he's like, no, this is bigger than that. Like, I feel like they're genuinely like anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. But yeah, he figures out a way to go back in time, and he wants to stop his mom from being killed while also making sure that because he's so down that Bruce Wayne has figured out a way to unscramble the footage that was supposed to exonerate his father, or at least corroborate his alibi that he was at the store, he couldn't have done it. But his father never looks up, so then he's like, all right, I gotta figure out another way, and it's to go back in time. And then you can't mess with time because then it messes back, as Endgame said, or something like that. Anyway, that's the gist of the movie. I think people can piece that together from the commercials, but that is it. And the problem that arises is he's in a universe with no metahumans and an old Batman who is like, yeah, I don't really need to do anything. Gotham's actually a great place to live. And God comes and they're like, well, we need to figure this out. And I think like that was more interesting than Flashpoint, if I have to say something, because Flashpoint it's just like, oh, we got to stop Aquaman and Wonder Woman from killing everyone while they kill each other. Whereas this one is like, this is acknowledging what came before, which is, if you went too far back in time, Zod would still have to show up and you'd be like, oh shit, what do we do? So yeah, all of that is interesting, and I would say they do a good job of like I wish she had more to do, but they have a good job. They do a good job of inserting Supergirl based on what you know about Supergirl, which is she was actually sent to protect Clark, but never
Right.
got there in time,
Mhm.
and that she right away is like, actually the commercials make it seem like she's like, all right, yeah, I'll fight with you, but she's like, fuck you guys, you're humans and you captured me, so I hate you, and I'm gonna work with Zod until she's like, one, she sees that Zod is kind of wild, and she's like, maybe not, and then she gets confirmation from Zod like, oh yeah, and I killed the baby, like you know that thing you were supposed to protect, killed him.
Your little cousin that you have literally no interaction with, you just told her your blood, killed him.
Yeah,
he was dead.
And then I'm like, okay, yeah, like she's 100% going to be as angry as she is in the trailers, and
100%.
be like, oh, like you took away my, and I think that was good that they actually had that in the dialogue of like, I am Kryptonian, but I don't believe that like Zod represents Kryptonia. Like we are peaceful people, not people of war. Yeah. And he killed my cousin and like kind of took away my whole reason for being here. Like I'm pissed. I want to fuck this guy up.
Yeah, and he's like part of the council that was like didn't listen to science and led to our Krypton's demise. Like he was that guy. Like screw him. He's bad. And he's trying to do it all over again.
He knows that stuff because she wasn't a baby when that happened. So
he doesn't get to propaganda everyone else and be like, oh, whatever. You know, he's just like, nope, this is the truth. You're a dick. Can't do this.
I just wish you had a bit more to do because
I agree. I can't wait to talk about the super. Well, I guess we already are.
Yeah, I just thought like it's like the interesting thing I found was, and maybe this is just because of how much I like Michael Keaton Batman, is that I was like, this is fine because we already saw the first two movies with him, so like you can have him be like, yeah, this is his final hurrah.
Exactly.
And I feel like it works better for me than what they were doing in the Joss Whedon version of like, oh, Batman just wants to kill himself. Like this just felt like 100%. He was like, no, I'm actually like alive again and feeling great about this.
Yeah.
And then it just so happens that he's like, I guess I'm not gonna win this, but like I'm not gonna not try. But
he's still gonna
like
be Batman.
The way he's like, nah, I don't think I'm coming back from this. Even when they try to rewind every time, he's just like, Barry, I don't think this is it. Like, I think I just have to die.
Yeah. It's I completely agree with what you said. All the stuff with Keaton, I loved it just because we got two Batman movies with him beforehand,
it's playing
right?
Off of that stuff. He's not a new character. So you're like, okay, this is the tail end of his story.
Absolutely. And I always walked out of there being like, this worked successfully as the goodbye to that Batman trilogy that we never got, right? We got Kilmer, we got Clooney, and all that kind of stuff. But we never got the third with Keaton to close it off, right? And there's little nods to it. And I think you're absolutely right. This is a movie that's, for the longest time, MCU has skirted the lines, and I don't think it's been doing so successfully lately, but been skirting the lines of, if you don't know what happened in the second Thor movie, there's going to be a small dialogue reference that's great for like hardcore lifers that like live and breathe like MCU like you and I do. But for everyone else that just goes by their head, it's inconsequential. It doesn't change the story. In this, I feel like, wait, who's that? Wait, who's that? It pulls you out of the story altogether. That if you're like not only just dedicated to the Snyder Cut, but dedicated to worlds of potential Superman that could have happened. Even the idea of the Nick Cage Superman showing up, I'm like, I love that. Great. But I loved it so much because I was a deep meta fan of what was going on at the time, right? As opposed to being like,
it's like a payoff to a Kevin Smith joke. It's like you need, like, I get, like, there may be people that were like, oh, why is Nick Cage super? The same way I feel like they could genuinely be like, well, okay, who cares that George Clooney is Batman? Like, you just I mean, George Clooney had a movie and he talks about it, but the Nick Cage thing, I remember being like, wow, when's he gonna be Superman? I keep hearing he's gonna be Superman. So like, that is a payoff, and
it is. It's a good payoff.
The whole Kevin Smith thing, like, and they wanted me to write it so that he fights a spider at the end, and so you see him fighting a spider. Like
I love that.
It's these deep cuts that, like, as you said, if you don't know like what like, I think where it pulls me out the most, like for you getting pulled out, like for me it was whenever they actually tried to do like Flash lore, because I'm like, I don't really know the Flash like that, so like, and I've watched most of the TV show. Like I think I only didn't watch the last 2 seasons. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
fell
I
off.
know the name Patty Spivot, but like I don't really know who that is. And like they're
Yeah.
acting like I already know who Patty is. Like the way
Mhm.
she's just there. I'm like, oh, okay, like when the fuck did this person go? And the other guy, I don't even know who the other guy's name is. Like, like I was just like, what? Who are these people?
Yeah.
And then like Gary on the couch, I'm like, is this is this a thing? Like, am I supposed to know who these people are? Like, understandably, you could just be like, yeah, those are his friends from work. But I'm saying
Yeah.
in a movie where there's everything seems like it's a reference to something else, I'm just like, I don't know who these people are. I like, and
Yeah.
they're taking up a lot of space in this early section.
Yeah.
Even Iris West, like I know who Iris West is. I know like where
They
that
do
goes,
such
but
a
like,
bad job with her
but
here.
I agree. Like I'm just like, what are you like? It really felt like well they get together, so I guess she'll just ask him to ask her out. But I'm like, nothing about their interactions makes it seem like one he even likes her,
Yes.
or that like she should be like, can you please ask me out? Like,
Yep.
she's just like, yeah, okay, weirdo, you left me at your house and just left.
Yeah.
Like,
The only and this is the vibe I get from this Iris is that she's all work and professional, which is great. I love that. I love a person that's dedicated to their craft and doing what they do, right? But to me, it reads as more manipulative that she jumps into. You should ask me out sometimes so quickly after the weird short interactions that they've had. Sure, they went to high school together, sure, whatever. But I'm like, and I'm like, we could be on Barry's side, be like, yeah, okay, yeah, you had a crush on her. You could tell us that. But like, there's no part about this that's like, oh, y'all were longing to get together after a Facebook ad. You know what I mean? It's just like you're not looking to connect. They're trying to build off something that didn't exist in the first place. And that's how I feel with the Supergirl thing is the idea of like, okay, the death would mean something more if you gave her more to do in this movie. And like she's a vehicle to be like, yeah, those are the things you need to do. You need someone to fight Zod, but we're clearly not convinced you're going to actually take down Zod or win that fight in any means or anything like that.
It works, yeah. It's this, like if you know the flashpoints where you're like, yeah, I get what you're doing,
yeah,
but kind of like Iris West, like it's just like, well, yeah, like they need a Kryptonian to do this,
yes,
and they hate Henry Cavill, so it won't be actually Superman.
But we're gonna use this like an image.
But what I said earlier was I still stand by, which is I like that it wasn't just whatever, it's Supergirl. There was something that like gave her character something to play.
It wasn't a lot,
but
anger, it was something.
But like it gave her something to play, and I just because people are like, oh, she's so good in it, and I'm like,
really?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not that I think she's bad. It's just I wish she had anything else to do. Like she doesn't have a lot to do, and it seemed like there was things they could have explored, but it was just like, well, you get it. She's the Superman character.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but like you did something different that's interesting. So like, why not? Let's like, because at some point they're even like, so we're the Justice League then, and Barry's like, yeah, I guess so. And I'm like, all right, so just even it out for Supergirl then.
Yeah,
let her have some feelings.
Yeah. And by the way, what a weird thing to so heavily reference Cyborg in dialogue and even like do the Victor Stone search and all. I like that they referenced
that
it.
They didn't just be like, well, he doesn't like,
I
just won't acknowledge that he ever existed.
Right.
I mean,
I'm just saying in a movie where they're doing deep cuts and
he's just not his face. Like
I didn't actually, like the back of him running into the stadium, right? The back of his jersey.
No, like they show actual Cyborg when you're in the like Speed Force.
Oh, see, I didn't see that. That was the comment I was going to make. Is like, oh, they're just using him in name, and then I didn't see the Cyborg
every
aspect.
Justice League member.
I
just think that rightfully so they don't show his face because he probably was like, "Fuck you, you can't use my likeness."
Yeah, 100%. But
he is like full on Cyborg is in it. It's just always shot so that you don't see his face.
I didn't realize that's kind of why I was looking for Ray Fisher. I was like, oh, this is a very extremely awkward situation. You even got Gal Gadot showing up in the first scene, and I didn't think that was going to happen. So I was like, yeah,
I knew all of the cameos that were gonna happen.
Right.
I didn't know how they would happen, but I knew how George Clooney was gonna happen, and I thought like, I feel like they wrote that wrong, but like, no, they really did stick with George Clooney. And then in the context of the movie, as I was saying, was like that is sad because it's like the last thing he's talking to Ben Affleck, Bruce Wayne about is like, maybe we could be friends. Like we could
Yeah.
go have a meal together. Like, and he's just like, nah, Barry, I'm too tired. And then
Not this time.
throughout the movie, it's like him being like, well, I'm friends with Batman, and he's not
Yes.
wrong. Like they're obviously friends. Like
Yeah,
he's
they are.
constantly calling on him, and like
Batman gives him the suit.
yeah,
like-
Batman gave him the suit. Batman's constantly asking him to help, and like
Yep.
that is like the Batman way of basically being like your family. Like,
Exactly.
Just like can you do this?
I need
part
you.
for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I need it.
He even points it out, like, can't help but notice, but the majority of the messes I'm cleaning up
your
is
messes.
Batman related messes.
But like,
it's kind of funny.
so he's just like, yeah, let's just actually be friends, and Bruce, and then he gets back to where he thinks he can have a friend again, and it's George Clooney. He's like, well, who the fuck's this guy? Like, I don't know this guy.
Yeah.
And like, good for George Clooney for showing up, but I'm like, why are you playing it this way? Like the way he's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what's wrong with you, George? What is this line read here?
Yeah, like nobody likes
does he
George
know that-
Clooney more than George Clooney in the role of Batman. Like he loves being Batman for sure.
No,
he
doesn't.
loved that.
No, he doesn't. He famously is like, this was
What?
worse, and apologizes, and will
Really?
give you your money back if you like actually like. You're never gonna touch.
But
George
why is he
Clooney.
playing it like this? I thought he just had fun. I thought he had fun with the character.
I'm
I
sure
didn't
with
realize.
time he gonna. No, he doesn't like being Batman at all.
Oh my god! Then what? This movie is just really bothering me. Then I
This
came
is-
in
but
with a different
that's what I'm
rating
saying
than
is
what I'm
the
leaving with.
metatextual thing of like,
Yeah.
you're in the universe with the guy who doesn't even like being Batman. Like, like you don't. But that's like, it actually felt like they were really driving home the sadness of that. Because then
Yeah.
he's like, then you see
Yeah.
him in the post credit with Aquaman, who's too drunk to even be like, well, yeah, like I'll go sleep over with. He's like, no, you go. I'm gonna stay here in this puddle. It's like, yeah, this
That
guy's
puddle was
just,
awesome.
just
That's
like
hilarious.
fully alone. Like, he and I'm glad he got the one win, which was like, because they set up like, yeah, 3 lives were ruined for a can of tomatoes, and he's just like, well, I'll put the tomatoes up so my dad can look up, and at least he'll be out of jail. But like, I think the other thing is like, they never say who killed his mom, and in the comics, you do know who killed his mom.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
such an
just like-
important part of it. It's so
I mean,
important.
I understand that I shouldn't say I understand. I get that they didn't want to commit fully to Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
But like, you still did Dark
You
Flash
still
or
did-
whatever that's called.
They
and
did
it's
Dark
just like-
Flash or the visuals and imagery of Reverse Flash the entire movie.
Because I just kept being like, I don't understand how either of them are going to kill the mom. Like,
Yeah.
and I know that it's Eobard Thawne that does it,
Yeah.
not Barry. But it's just like one of them has to kill her, right? Because that's otherwise what's going on here. But I guess they really just what I understood was they were like, let's just focus on the dad not being in jail.
Yeah.
It can still be a mystery that haunts him.
Yeah.
But like, maybe that's for another movie. Maybe
Well,
they will.
yeah.
Maybe the next movie will get into that. But I was just like, it feels like they're not fully closing the loop, because it's just like, you just keep going back and ruining things.
Yeah, they're closing the loop on the character development side of things, where it's just like, okay, he finally and he get it, like the first scene where you see his mom before she gets murdered and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, the bath problem thing, the 24. Like, first of all, there's no mathematical math teacher that would be like, give me every equation that would reach 24. That's a stupid ass question. That's a dumb question. There's no reason for that. Like, you're not teaching creativity in math. You're teaching people how to follow a set of rules to get to a number. Like, why would
there
that
are
even
teachers
be?
that would do that. I know teachers
There are,
because
but
there's the same
there's-
teachers that would be like, because I don't believe anything can be perfect, you'll never get more than an 80 in my class. And you're like, thanks.
Yeah, but those people have their own insecurity and their own projection issues. Like, that's on them. But whatever. Like, I had teachers like that, and I'm just like, who hurt you, man? Like, who hurt you? This is bad. But it's putting it all in the Eobard Thawne thing in Flashpoint is so important, because he says something so pivotally important to me that I love, what he says to Flash to make him realize that he's fundamentally wrong in this. And what Eobard Thawne says, you have the power to go back in time. You could have changed history. You could have prevented JFK from being assassinated. You could have prevented Martin Luther King from being assassinated. But no, the only thing you chose to do is go back in time to save your own mom and be selfish. That's what you chose to do, Barry. And then in that, he realizes what he's done, and yeah, he is selfish, and like the enemy is right now. Like that's the great thing I like about Flashpoint. In this, sure, we get the idea of, okay, Barry is literally parenting himself. And as great as a therapy kind of device as that is, the movie seems more interested in the idea of like, let it go, just let it go kind of deal. Get to that conclusion, and that's it. Listen to your mom. And it's tough because I'm like, oh, this whole thing doesn't work so well without you having that realization that you're being fundamentally super, super selfish. Like they set it up where it's like, oh, Batman said this, but he's like doing the kid thing, the brat thing, where it's like, you said I couldn't do this, so I did this instead. And it was just like, oh man, this sucks.
I think he's still, as you said, they've still closed the loop on him realizing he was being selfish.
They totally do.
I just thought that it was like, it's still gonna be something that eats at him. Like,
yeah,
sure, I realize I can't go back and make it so she doesn't die, but there's no like, but why did she die? Like, who did that?
Exactly.
Like, who killed her? Like, he's not even like, I'm gonna go back and stop the guy from killing her. He's just like, I'm gonna go back and like, oh, I guess he does acknowledge why he can't do that. He's like, that's too much interaction.
Yes,
but like, wouldn't you still want to see who did it? Like, I guess too tempting. Maybe the movie did proof themselves from that criticism, but I would want to know who did it, and like maybe fuck with them later in life. I don't know.
No, I agree with you on that. I'm just like, okay, when he's talking through himself with Iris there and being like, if I do this, it won't interact with this and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, but then you go into the past and then you prove to us that you can just, in a moment in time, just be there, be present, see everything that's happening, and then just leave. So why would you not just, in the moments before your mom dies, look through the window to be like, oh, that's who did it. That's who killed my mom. I'm gonna get you. Like, or, you know, like, why not do that? It's just like, no, I'm not interested in who kills my mom. I'm just gonna be like, no, I'm more interested about the tomatoes. I get that the tomatoes is a practical solution, but it's more practical to be like, hey, who killed my mom?
Yeah,
why did they do this?
It's not my dad because it's clearly this person.
Exactly. Like,
he's still meddled.
Yeah.
Like, and we already know that the Flashpoint story is a way to reset anyway. So like, no one would be like, hey, he messed with time. It's like, yeah, that's
the whole point.
I mean, again, you have to know that going in. Not everyone will know that going in.
True,
and
true.
That's the balancing act this movie does. And I guess they just chose to be like, no, this movie is genuinely for people who know.
Yeah.
And so we're not really. Yeah. There isn't any real hand holding. Like even the fact, like when he gets to the like. I guess it happens the same way in the comics. It's not like there's a big explanation. You actually just wait. Like it starts with him already in the alternate universe.
Yeah, but I mean, I and that's what I like. It does it a little bit more successfully because it does that thing whole out of context of like, how did we get here? I'm like, that's really good, especially for a time travel movie. Like that device could have been used so successfully here, and it's just like, no, it's a very linear story. I'm like, I don't understand why they chose to do that. It's weird that's linear, but a time travel movie.
I mean, yeah, I get that time travel's in it. I don't really see it as a time travel movie, like in that sense of like, because his plan isn't to like. It is as straightforward as Back to the Future, as I said, but like. The idea was that he wasn't necessarily thinking about it that way. Like in Back to the Future, he accidentally goes back in time. He's like, how do I get back there?
Right.
Which is why it's like Back to the Future, because he's like accidentally like, wait, I didn't go back to my present, so now I gotta get back. But like, to me, it's just like that math problem. Like you're trying to fit too much in here, man. Like you should, there's like, maybe just know your limits and, but yeah, like I think it's obviously time travel. Like I get what you're saying, but to me the focus isn't the time travel. It is
Yeah.
in the way that Endgame, the focus is like, no, we're going to different points in time and we're going to talk about like how we fix it so that everything goes back the way it needs to go back.
Absolutely.
This was just like, yeah, he needs to use time travel. He's the Flash, he can do that.
Yep.
This is going to be more about him like coming to terms with himself or whatever. Like, and
100%.
I understand that other time travels movies and stories can do that. It just felt like this movie wasn't truly focusing on the time travel aspect of it. It was
100%.
just, it was there to help them yada yada over
Yeah.
the stuff they actually wanted to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. The time travel was not a primary focus behind this movie at all. It was a storytelling device,
Yeah,
more than
They're
anything
They're
else.
just like, yeah, you get it. He can time travel. Don't get off
Yeah,
our backs.
exactly.
Like,
Because I'm like, and I don't know about you. I want to know your thoughts. But when we meet Keaton for the first time, the Big Lebowski Keaton, as I call him, because he does look like the dude, and it's great.
but he can fight.
He can fight. He does.
Yeah, he's not chilling. He's like,
he's
no,
not
fuck
chilling,
you
but
up.
I'm just saying he looks like the dude.
Yeah.
It's great. But that in that scene, I'm like, okay, this is weird. Because now we have this Batman explaining time travel.
Mm-hmm.
How am I to understand that this Batman exists in a universe where we had the Tim Burton Dark Deco aesthetic going to modern day? And it's just, I don't understand. And he goes like, well, the only explanation he offers up is time isn't linear, right? And I'm like, dude, like, that's just, you can't just go science. And that's the explanation.
I don't know what you would want him to say. He said you went back, so you created a new future and a new past, meaning that affected his past. Like, so you don't necessarily have to be like, oh, he had the same. But he showed you, like, it's very visual, and then he goes like, you think what you did was you broke this piece, but you broke both pieces. It went both ways. So now, yeah, you're in this thing, but that also changed my path. Like, you didn't just change your path, you just changed this whole timeline's past, and you changed its trajectory and future. So, I mean, I don't know really what else you would want him to say.
I guess to me, it was very, very odd that the movie doesn't force Barry to figure it out. It's just like, oh, Batman's going to explain it. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. But once we get there, and I'm like,
when he did figure, he's like, why did this change your past? And then he gets
the that's right.
Like,
he does.
He's
do
not
the interview
like
thing.
Completely dumbfounded. He's just like, I know what happened, but like, why? And then he gets the explanation.
That's fair. Okay, I'm more able to accept it there. Yeah.
I mean, as I said, I don't think they were that like keen on getting caught up in the time travel.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
I think you do it that way so that people can be like, spaghetti, sure. And the visual helped me, like, just not the wet spaghetti stuff, even though that was a good visual in terms of like, look, it all comes together in certain points, but it's different in other ways. But like, one thing I thought was interesting about that scene, so I listened to a couple podcasts with Scott Aukerman on them, and he was talking about when he made Shark Tale, and there was a scene where like whenever they were testing, people were like, this just is boring, it's just two fish talking to each other, and like, but like, you need the scene, you can't cut it because it sets everything up. And then he was like, the composer's like, don't worry about that, and then he just put in very specific music. It's this music that's playing during the time travel explanation spaghetti scene. And he's just like, yeah, you put that in a scene, your test audiences will never care about long periods of talking ever again. He's like, it's just this cure-all for like making people be like, oh, okay, whatever. And I was like, it's weird that I'm now aware of this, that they just put in this very happy, like, upbeat music while you have to explain stuff, and it does help the scene just move along way better than if you put like intense music or no music. And I was like, it's interesting that they're using that trick still in this movie.
You mean, big mind-breaking thing just went off. I'm like, yeah, okay, that explains why like every YouTube explanation video has upbeat like music to that. It does, like, I guess, put you in a more positive learning state.
You're like, he was just like, oh yeah, like, just the composer was like, not a problem at all. Like, just
That's cool.
don't worry about your scene, it'll be fine. And he's like, literally like there was like 3 other test screenings and no one ever had a problem with the scene ever again.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I really like when composers have that level of influence in storytelling. I mean, like, it really is next level stuff. It really, really is. That's a cool device, because I'm like, during that part, I was just like getting bothered by the fact that I'm like, are we really using spaghetti right now? But I guess you're right. It does explain things well enough to be like, yeah, because I thought it was very literally, yeah, you screwed up your world. No, you screwed up multiple worlds and things are colliding now. And I'm like, that makes a little bit more sense to, okay, sure.
See, that was the other thing, like the worlds colliding, that visual, I was like, that feels like you wouldn't get that from just reading Flashpoint. You would need to read the like previous was that like Crisis or whatever? I can't remember.
Infinite Crisis on Infinite.
That's the one where Flash has to run to put them all together, but like this one is trying to separate them again. And like, I'm just like, yeah, like I don't really feel. I can see why a lot of people don't like the third act, because I'm like, this is where they're
of
really
this movie
going. Yeah, of this movie. I'm just like, oh yeah, like there's. If you don't know the comics, and I'm not even saying if you know the comics it's good, I'm just saying like at least I have something to grasp of, like, I know what visually they're trying to get across, but I don't understand how this works in what they set up in the first 2 acts. Like, as you said, like it starts linear, so you're just in the present day instead of jumping right in media res to him being like in the new universe trying to figure things out. But it's so they can show you like the way they've never been able to show you before his Flash skills. And I'm just like, I mean, I do not like this baby stuff. People, if you're in, you're in. Like, it's whatever. But I'm just like, I do not like this. But they're doing that, and I'm like, okay. But then he doesn't really like figure things out ever again like that. Like,
I know, because
that's very like, it's showing off like it's the Spider-Man trapping, not exactly the same, but like it's Spider-Man figuring out, oh, like I can use geometry to beat Doctor Strange's magic.
Yes.
Like, okay, like you can see him doing the calculations. I don't know what they are, but like you can see him doing the calculations and be like, okay, I can send the burrito that will stop this. And like, I'm like, okay, cool. Like this is him at his best. Like,
you're talking about the hospital scene, right?
Yeah, like
okay.
Protecting the babies and the dog. Like it's showing off like his thought process and all of that. But then they kind of switch in the second act to like, I don't know, throw up the rock and like you just shoot people. You just shoot people when you throw up the rock, and I was like, okay. It seems like we would have had a bit more of like
that is great.
It just seemed like we would have used. And I'm not saying do it exactly the same again like it was the Sherlock Holmes movie, but like at least you're like, okay, that's when it's slow, and now we understand that that's something he can do. But it didn't really happen again. Like it just felt like it was like, okay, we showed off in that scene.
It's and then, like, here's a power you can use, Barry, without the high-tech suit. You can cast electric bolts now.
Yeah, so they're doing all that, and then it gets into this thing where, like, now you have to deal with what you set up with Dark Flash earlier on when he knocked him. I'm like, I wouldn't have done that. I mean, we're not here to, like, rewrite the movie, but I think that's where they falter, where it's like, well, now you got to deal with Dark Flash, and they give you an idea of how he starts out, because, like, he keeps getting stuck with things, and you're like, this is really dark and gruesome, actually. Like, am I really gonna have to wait until he looks like that? I'm like, thankfully they just jump. Like, no, the third guy's just gonna show up and stop this one. And it's like, like, so I'm just supposed to believe he never stopped going back to fix this one point in time.
I could actually believe that. I believe that's
fine. Dark, but like, 100%. It's like, he's such a non-character that you're like, oh,
I completely agree.
You just have to be like, oh, it's because it's young Barry in the future.
Yeah,
which they say, like, it's stated, it's very clear. It just felt like, I mean,
I would have wanted
to be a bit more of a runway to that. In
I completely agree.
Like, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense or that they didn't explain it. It's just so abrupt because it felt like they're like, oh right, what did we do with the Dark Flash again? Okay, it's just because there's different points where I'm like, oh, they're gonna build up a resentment, but really, like when he's like, oh, I can't tell him I'm here because my mom's dead, and
He
Michael
overhears it.
Keaton is like, yeah, that's true, that's a lot to put on someone, and then you see that he heard that. I'm like, oh, is he gonna be pissed or something? But
It was nowhere
that's
with it.
not. That's not. He was just like, yeah, mom's dead, and I just don't want you to die. I'm like, oh, so there's no resentment. There's no like.
Exactly.
He's just like, yeah, okay. So I'm like, so how is he gonna go bad? Because
Yeah.
people rightfully pointed out, like, oh, obviously, it's the young Barry that's gonna go bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, that must be it. But also, like in the trailers, it looks like more like older Barry, who's the one that's always like upset and sullen and like could go bad. And so this isn't me being like, they didn't do what I wanted them to do. It was just like they had kind of a runway to like
Right.
this guy being pissed off about like, no matter what I do, I can't fix it, which is eventually the young Barry
Yes.
take. But like it felt like you were putting our Barry in that position more throughout the movie.
That's what's weird about it, for sure.
And I'm fine that they didn't do it so that he switches and he goes evil. It's just
Right.
I felt like, yeah, there needed to be a bit more of me seeing young Barry getting a bit frustrated with what was happening. It happens all in the scene at the end.
Yeah.
Like just little things like, what, are you just gonna stay in here the whole time, like, and like being like pissed off? And I'm like, yeah, like I feel like that could be sprinkled out throughout the whole thing. Like, yes, they have their one big blow up where he's like, all I've done is do what you asked me to do, and you just keep being pissed. But then when Barry explains it, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, like, got it, sure.
Yeah,
why you're upset.
It's bullshit to me, because that scene is so pivotal and so important, and it's so right, because it's just like, this is the point where old Barry should realize, yeah, you're taking this out on everyone else because you're screwing this up. You've screwed up, and you're projecting your everything onto young Barry and all that. Because like young Barry is absolutely right. It's like, all I've done is everything you've asked me to do, and you keep yelling at me. Why am I doing this? I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely correct. This is bullshit. But then the idea here is the Dark Flash, as we'll call them, isn't a part of this movie in Act 1 or 2 in any significant way to make me believe that this is an actual threat, right? And I like that at the end of the movie, there's no need for a speedster battle between the two of them, because now I have to exist in a world where, okay, this young Barry, who's now old, has been doing this forever, is weaker than old Barry, who's younger than young Barry now, and it's just like, what the hell? And I like that the battle was internal or philosophical. The idea of like, no, you actually, this is you have to get over this, because you're. I like what he says. Look at everything we're doing. Look at everything we've done, and I'm like, that's amazing. That's so good, and that I can understand that the younger Barry is legitimately the one that's naive. It's like, you can't let mom die. Are you hearing yourself? Like, what are you talking about? That's great stuff. But to your point, give me a reason to care about Dark Flash a little bit more. Give him a threat. Like, let him tamper
like,
throughout the rest of the movie.
All I knew is I had to get you out of there so you could create me.
Yeah,
but like,
that's dumb.
That feels like it's ignoring the part where he doesn't help him to get what he needs to get done.
Exactly. And then it's also the idea of like, okay, so I get it. That Dark Flash version stabs you, so the Dark Flash version goes away. But then we open up the issue of, okay, well, then Dark Flash needed to exist in order to create this loop, where it's just like, that doesn't make sense now, because it's just this closed loop thing where it won't work. And then we always have the other issue of like, what happens if there are two Barrys in one universe? And I do like in the Marvel thing where it's like, oh yeah, it screws up our timeline, this can't happen. Here it's just like, nope, y'all are twins, that's it.
So what I did like was, I remember when we were first finding out it was going to be Flash, I'm like, he hasn't even had like a first movie, who's going to care if he and then this movie was like, because in Flashpoint he goes back but he just doesn't have his powers, they were able to do like, well, now he's with young Barry and he tries to get young Barry powers and he loses his powers as a result. I was like, well, that's at least cool that we get to see the origin story without like waiting for him to like I thought that was part of the Back to the Future 2 of it all, of like, let's go back, and not that we saw it first, but like, we're gonna
Right.
go back and try to like recreate the moments or like get them right. From
Yeah.
the first movie that we never got to see. Of
Yeah.
like, I thought that was interesting. Of like, okay, first we're gonna get young Barry his power, so you can
Mhm.
see what it was, and like
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, I opened this window, it was these things.
Yep.
I thought that was like it was an interesting way of having it not feel boring. Like it was just like, oh,
I
okay, that's cool. Like,
completely agree.
and then you get to do the Flashpoint thing of like,
Yeah.
oh, Barry gets struck by lightning with Batman's help or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
all you still get to have your cake and eat it too in that sense. Though
Mhm.
it's just like
Mhm.
we're still gonna do the beats of Flashpoint, but like we're also gonna throw in some origin stuff just so you can
Yes.
kind of be caught up.
Yeah, I'm very glad you brought that up, because that is, to me, one of the strongest points of this movie is the idea of that they actually fit in the origin story very, very quickly in a very good way. You get all the things that you want from an origin story, like a young kid learning to use their powers for the 1st
Mhm.
time and how irresponsible that is. You have a mentor figure being like, told you not to do that.
Yeah.
Like, you have
Let me
all
finish
the
my
points here.
sentences.
It's great. I completely agree. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, that he says that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to you.
Sorry, sorry, I
I'm not
misunderstood.
saying that to you.
Yeah. No, but I'm so glad you brought that up, because it is, to me, one of the strongest aspects of this movie. That this, you're right. When we talked about this, like, why are they doing Flashpoint? It's the pivotal Flash story. Well, you can't get an origin out of that. They fit it in. It's great.
They got lucky that it kept getting pushed back to this, so
That's
that
true.
like people can be like, oh, whatever, it's a reset.
Yeah.
But like, I still don't think that would be the best idea for a first movie. Like,
Yeah,
if
lucky
this
is
is actually the first movie,
Yeah.
and then you're like,
Yikes.
it's the Batman v Superman problem. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, so you went to like the ceiling of what you could do with this story
Yeah.
on the first go. Like you didn't lead up to this at all. You just like, let's just go for it.
Yeah.
One other thing I liked, was when he called Aquaman's dad. I was not expecting to see Aquaman's dad, and that was cool. And then
Yeah.
he's just like,
That cameo was
wait,
good.
so is your wife there? He's like, yep. He's like, is she like a
Is she the Queen of
queen
Atlantis?
He's like,
I think so.
but like she was at one point. He's like, all right, screw you, asshole. Like,
why are you trolling me right now?
yeah. He's
That
like,
was
can I speak
so-
to Arthur? You want to speak to my dog?
That was great. That was so great. I really liked that cameo there. I didn't think that we were going to get that cameo.
Yeah, like when I saw he was on the list, I'm like, okay, they're just gonna like show him with Aquaman or something. But I was
Yeah.
like, oh no, this is a very effective use of like,
Yes.
all right, I'll get Arthur, like, because they are friends or whatever, and then it's just like, nope, Arthur doesn't exist in this.
Yep. They that's not true. And that when they first did that, I was like, so we're not doing the Aquaman Wonder Woman thing then.
Yeah,
right
I'm
off the
glad they
bat,
didn't
I
do that.
definitively they're not doing
Yeah.
that. Like that
I'm
was a
glad-
good message to anyone, like, hey, I know we're doing Flashpoint, but don't expect this.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't exist in this world. That's how we're gonna do it. I'm like, cool. I can appreciate that a little bit better. You're setting up the terms that we're like, yeah, what we're not gonna get what we think we're gonna get just because it's inspired by Flashpoint. Cool.
Yeah, they made the story their own.
Yep.
But yeah, I think what we were saying earlier, don't remember. I cut myself off to talk about liking the Arthur or the Tom's. I guess that means that Batman and Aquaman's dads have the same name. Because didn't he say I'm talking to Thomas Curry?
Oh my god, is this gonna be a Martha moment between other characters?
It just, I think, and it must be that that's Aquaman's dad's name, but it's just like, why do all these heroes have like the same parent names?
Yeah. It's I don't get it. Must be someone's Easter egg to their own parents, like
Yeah,
continuously
I
at
guess-
DC. Yeah.
I guess that's it, because you can just be like, yeah, whatever, it's my mom's name.
Yeah,
It's
my dad's name is Thomas.
Yeah,
There's multiple people named Thomas. The last name is different. No problem. I get that.
that's all I could think about while he was like, wait, and it must have come up in the Aquaman movie, but I was just like, Thomas Curry, like, how many people are gonna have the same like parent names?
Yeah. I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, this sorry, that's what we were talking about. The idea that they got to do the origin thing, but like and have it be that Barry can actually be a mentor. And I know people are also commenting on enjoying the fact that they can comment on the like earlier annoying things of the Flash, but I'm like, I mean, he's just as annoying at the beginning of this movie as this older Flash. Like,
Yeah.
I
He's
don't
very
know-
much the same.
Yeah. If people like that, that's good. I'm glad. I think what works about it is just that you're like, yeah, this movie is about people like really doing inward searching and like
Absolutely.
the two Bruces we spend the most time with, well, the publicized ones are like so Ben and Michael, like they're both like kind of like, well, I mean, yeah, like maybe you're just supposed to have these scars, maybe you don't fix this. Like it's
We heal from our scars. They make us who we are, kind of deal. We can't undo it. I like that message. I really, really do.
Like you shouldn't try and not have any pain. Like, and it's obviously terrible that it's your parents, but like this is a defining moment for you.
Yeah, and here's the thing I do like about this movie, right? And I think it's a very subtle thing that they do, but it starts with Diana and the Lasso of Truth, with the scene where she pulls Batman out and where he goes like, well, this persona is a compensation for my childhood trauma, all this kind of stuff. And he goes like, well, if I really wanted to fight poverty, if I really wanted to fight crime, I'd use all my money and to eliminate poverty and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I like that they added that social commentary in 100%. Yes.
I'm not a fan of that because I think it misses the point of Batman, but
it does miss the point of Batman,
like
100%.
And it also is like the answer to capitalism is more capitalism. Like just put more money into it. It's like, no, like there's structural reasons why this is happening. It's not just a matter of people not having enough money.
I get that, but it's just funny that they put commentary in there to be like, oh, he actually has that thought every now and then. That's interesting.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't like that, because if he actually has that thought, then what the fuck is he doing? Like
he's just holding everything's back. He's just being like, no, I want my car.
That's
true.
He can't actually believe that. Like that. I get the joke. Like this movie is trying to be irreverent. Like they're gonna make jokes at everyone's expense. Yeah. So it's not like I'm like, this movie sucks because they made fun of Batman. It's more just like, what if you actually have that character? Like the best thing that could happen with Batman getting the lasso is someone be like, so who are you really? And him saying Batman, like just that he truly believes that.
That's true.
Like, that would be
that is good.
This is stupid that I do this, and I should just be giving money. It's like,
that's fair.
The answer to capitalism's problem isn't more capitalism or good capitalism. Like that isn't actually the answer.
It's a band-aid solution.
Yeah, that's not actually the answer. And also, what are we doing with Batman if that's what you actually think he thinks?
Socialist Batman. Yeah, that still beats up criminals with mental health issues at night instead of funding mental health programs.
And as I said, like what I like about Batman isn't that he beats up like
100%
robbing the rich. It's that he just won't give up, and he'll do things like be there for Barry when Barry's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And obviously in this movie he's kind of like, I can't really be there for you, but let's talk this through. Like that he is there, and that he's trying to create this family unit again, and that the unofficial, unstated mission is that no one should have to suffer from violent deaths again, or like that part I like, not the whole and then he stops the bad guys from robbing the bank. Like I don't give a shit if he stops that. I care if it was like, this person's going to hurt the city, I'm gonna stop that. Like
that's true.
Or how they showed him in Suicide Squad. I know people don't like that, but like when he's like, oh shit, I just can't leave like Harley Quinn to die here, and he's like, I'm gonna get her and take her back up, even though she is like that's the parts I like about Batman, not that he beats up people with mental. That's why I specifically was like, I don't really like this Joker movie, like if they're trying to lead up to a Batman, because it's like, why? No, I just
that's gonna be bad.
I just wanted to have help.
I'm like, I just wish society would have better funding for mental health programs where this guy is at. Like that's where I feel with that. I 100% agree with that.
But
I don't want to see Pattinson go up against him.
I wouldn't even take points off for this movie. Like I understood the joke, I get it, but like realistically, no, it's not a scene I like, because I'm like,
fair enough.
That's not what Batman should be saying.
That's true. But so aside from that scene, I think the scene that's very, very interesting is when Barry tells Bruce, Ben Affleck, Bruce, that he accidentally figured this out, what he could do, how he could save all this kind of stuff. And Bruce having these key pieces of dialogue where it's like, I've let my trauma or my pain define me maybe a bit too much. And I'm like, this is good stuff.
That is different. I think that is different. Like, maybe I can ease up on that. I think that
100%
is fine. Like for him to acknowledge something like that.
Yeah. So I like the fact that this Bruce, given us an older Bruce, actually has a lot more emotional maturity behind a lot of the things, because that initiates a lot of Barry's emotional maturity in this too, to like be self-reflective and all that. Because I'm like, Batman being a mentor to Flash here is great. And you need a Batman that actually has that ability to work through some stuff to be like, hey, yeah, I dealt with the death of Robin, for example, like in this universe, and like, know how to teach people to be like, all that kind of stuff. I've worked through a few things, and I like that version of it a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it works really good as a mentor. 100%. I like that. And I'm like, it sucks that we're saying goodbye to that, because I'm like, I like this now. And it's Ben Affleck's having fun with the character.
And I liked it in the Michael Keaton universe when it was kind of just like, it's not even them talking. It's just Barry being like, I know you're there. Like, and then just talking through it. And then how that really pushes Michael Keaton Batman to be like, all right, I'm in on this guy. Like I can see why other Batman wants to work with this guy.
Yeah, 100%. It's great. It's great stuff.
But that he's kind of saying the same thing. Like, yeah, like this is the stuff you build off of, not necessarily try to remove from your life.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that who else? I mean, the Zod of it, I was really like, wow, they really are like keeping the Zod stuff till the end, because I thought for sure like, oh, this will just be pure dark Flash for the last act. It was like, nope. They're sticking to the Zod as the bad guy, and like that's fine. It's just like they kind of set up early right away, like, well, we won't be able to kill them, which means like, they're gonna kill you then, and that is what happens. It's just like okay, I guess we're watching this then for a bit. Like, and I think that's where it kind of might fall apart for people, where you're like, oh, we're gonna just deal with this then. I guess like them trying to not die, but they already stated that they probably will die.
Yep.
I did like the second run though, where you think there might be a chance, because Barry's like, all right, well, now that we know what happened to Supergirl and Batman, we can look out for them. And then he's like, no, Bruce, that's got shields. You're not gonna beat it. He's like, Roger that.
He's like, got that.
Yeah.
But then he finds another way to like go out heroically, and
I loved this fight with that. I can't even remember what that Kryptonian's name is. Like,
I know
it's all CGI, but I was just like, I'm like, yeah, this is the Batman that doesn't give up, and it's just like, I just gotta fix it, because that's not someone robbing a bank. That's someone here to destroy the Earth, and it's like,
yes.
And because you usually typically think like, well, Batman's not gonna beat a Kryptonian without his like Dark Knight Returns suit, but like, so yeah, keep him out in the plane. But he gets out of the plane. He's like, no, like I gotta do this, and I'm like,
still useful. I still can punch.
Yeah.
You're right. This is a good Batman,
and I'm like, yeah, like this is great, because this is a great, and he's gonna die. And you're just like, but like that's fine, because it's not like this is a net new Batman. You're just like, he had his adventures. We know that already.
Yes,
this is his. He would rather go out like this than sitting alone in Wayne Manor.
100%. And I'm just like, this. So it's interesting, the commentary on like this versus the Bale Batman retirement kind of thing, right? Where it's like, this is a little bit more successful as the idea of like, they genuinely didn't need me. Look at what Gotham has done. Versus the Bale one's like, no, they still need you. Like, you're just doing your own thing.
Upset about a couple of things, so you're gonna remove yourself.
You're just gonna do hermit stuff because you're not doing therapy instead. Like, this. I
also like Michael Keaton's 71. They were trying to make it be like Christian Bale's gonna like not the actor, the Christian
Right.
Bale Batman is gonna retire at 40. I'm like, all right, fuck you. Like that's like
That's
stupid.
Yeah, that is stupid. I'm like, what are you talking about?
And
If,
I
if
acknowledge
LeBron
that's-
can still hoop, Batman
Yeah.
can still Batman at 40. Like,
And
come
I-
on.
and I get that was the point of it. They stated it in the first movie. This is just a temporary thing. I just don't
Yeah.
like that.
I
don't have-
completely agree.
I get that writing wise, they fulfilled their promise. They did what they set out to do. I just don't have to like it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good iteration of what if Batman were in real life, 100%.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'm like, but then we do run into the aspect of, oh yeah, he is still mortal, and like, that sucks.
Yeah,
but like,
it's just more as I've stated with that. What I like about Batman is his tenacity. Like not
100%.
not the whole he's a great detective, or it's like no, it's just a guy that is in a world where there are Supermen and Flashes, and he's still like
He's like, nope,
I
I'm
can
still gonna fight you.
contribute. Like I can still contribute to this.
Yeah, it's like Superman. Yep, I'm still gonna find a way to beat you somehow. Like that is good stuff. I really, really do like that. Right. His retirement here, it was just like, yeah, there literally was nothing else to do.
And the way he's fighting, you know that he's like, well, I want to do something. Like the way he tries to fight them in the
kitchen?
beginning, you're just like, yeah, like it's only because he has no one else to fight. Like,
100%.
like he would probably go out there and do something if it as you said, like it's not the Christian Bale thing.
Mm-hmm. This is a Batman that feels like, oh no, I've succeeded. Yeah. I've won. This is I beat all my roads.
I did it.
And I'm just like, all right, well, I guess I am gonna chill and just eat spaghetti for myself. And
spaghetti and paint.
I mean, painting, good for him. I love that. I mean,
I love that detail when he
hobby.
goes to touch his parents' picture and he's got the paint on his hands, just to be like, yeah, that's what he's been doing with his time.
Yeah. So I love when people are like, oh, it's bruises because he's been active. I'm like, yeah, he was in a fight scene. We just saw
it. It is paint. Like, there's like green, white, and like
yeah.
He was like, no, he was painting.
Yeah, he was painting and he was in a fight scene earlier. It's not. It doesn't give us any indication other than that. It was a throw off in the trailer. It's like, okay, was this Batman still active? I'm like, not with that dude look. He can't
no,
put the
he
cowl
was not
on.
active. I agree with you that it can't be that he was active. It's just,
but he just wanted.
He just had a fight, and he was also like, yeah, now I'm alive again. Like this is great.
Yeah, I'm like, I like this because he's like, I want to be back out there. It's just there was no reason for me to, because at that point,
the way
I'm like,
he's constantly like sacrificing his body. I'm just like, yeah, this is Batman. This is 100%. What I like about Batman.
Yeah, how he's like, nope. The first scene is like where they're in the bat thing is like, you're strapped into your parachutes, and then it's like the young bear is like, where's yours? And he just does the smirk, and I'm like, yes, this is Batman,
like,
baby.
I don't need that, but
I don't need
but
that
I love
shit.
the idea that it's like he's not invincible, very obviously, because after the first time he takes bullets for them, you see him like the bloody mess that's left after he takes everything off, and you're just, and that doesn't deter him. He's just like, all right, I'm back. Yes,
I'm still going, baby. And I love like that second death, like you were talking about, where he gets to fight the big Kryptonian guy, where he's like, I'm sorry I couldn't bring you back, and then he says, like, you already did. I'm like, this is awesome. He wants to die as Batman. He is Batman. He is himself again.
That is,
it's everything.
You would have to die as Batman. You can't die. Whatever. I mean, those are my personal opinions on Batman. It's not the only way to write Batman, but this gave me the version of Batman that like I feel like it was so cool to be like, yeah, this was my first Batman, like in earnest, my first Batman, like the Michael Keaton Batman. And yes, I'd seen Adam West stuff before that, but like,
of course,
Michael Keaton was my guy first, and then like to be able to like see what happens when he gets to be in a movie like this, and makes it seem like I really love this movie. It with a budget and like the new sensibility for superheroes, like on what they can do and not being like embarrassed by it.
While still poking fun at the old stuff, like the cowl thing that Barry does. I'm like, yeah, that's still funny stuff. I like that.
But like,
turn your head in the cowl. It looks stupid.
This is a movie that's not like embarrassed by superheroes. They can they can joke about certain aspects, but it's not like in '89 where they're like, well, I mean, Batman will make money, so we'll do it. But you know, it's Batman. And like, so yeah, it was just a nice send off to be like,
100%.
Yeah, I don't mind that he dies in this because like he's already convinced, like, well, the whole universe is gonna go, and that's kind of the that's part. I keep wanting to call it Flashpoint paradox, but that's part of the Flashpoint as well. Is that like the Thomas Wayne is like, oh no, we're working towards this all being erased. I would rather this be erased than live in this bullshit. Like, yeah, let's keep going with this.
Yeah, because the Thomas Wayne Batman is like, there's a universe where my son's alive.
Yeah,
I would much rather that universe exist rather than this universe exist where my wife is my arch enemy. Like, this is stupid. And like, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of great. And this is the thing where I hate. I'm like, you really do miss that one of the most emotional things with the Batman character ever, which is the Thomas Wayne letter that Barry gives to current day Bruce.
I'm glad they didn't put that in this, because
really
that's then it's a Batman story.
It turns it into a Batman thing, but I think honestly that's one of the biggest emotional points in Batman, and I'm just like, for Batman's character, 100% I agree with you. If they it was wise for them to leave it out, because the moment that they do, I'm like, well, how are you gonna end the movie now? Because you have to end the movie on Batman,
because it's supposed to end on that. And then I like that it doesn't end on it, but that you give Barry the opportunity to talk to his mom.
Absolutely.
I preferred that. I liked that interaction. He's obviously not doing a lot of talking. There's a lot of subtext to that, to the scene. Like, I believe she understands what's happening, but even if she doesn't, he's getting to hear stuff that he wants to hear and just be able to hold her again. I think that is more important than the letter.
I completely agree. I think that the letter is, again, like I said, one of my favorite Batman things that happens in comics, but it solely puts the whole spotlight on him because it's such an emotionally heavy thing for the character that you're just like, what, we were just watching a Flash movie?
Yeah.
No, I thought we were watching a 2-hour trailer to get to this moment. That's
everything in the marketing is like, it's Flash, but I mean, Batman, come on.
But we're selling this with Batman.
Well, that's what I told my dad. I was like, I mean, you're gonna be happy with the Michael Keaton stuff, and also him and Ben aren't even the only Batman in the movie. Like, this really seemed like they were like, we want Batman people to be happy with this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
but then leave bail
like
out.
when they there's, I mean, yes, obviously. Not every Batman is in it. That is true. But like,
I'm glad Adam West Batman got in
Adam
there.
West there. I'm pretty sure the Batman from the 40s, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and then George Clooney doesn't suit up, but
he's Bruce. I mean, George Clooney does play a good Bruce Wayne. He just doesn't do a good Batman.
But I don't think he was good at anything in that movie.
No, I'm doing this thing where I'm trying to find the positive stuff, and I'm like, he does do a better Bruce Wayne than a Batman.
He would. I mean, all you got to do is look at the scene where he finds out that Alfred is dying. You know he's not doing a good job as Bruce either.
You know what? You're absolutely right. It's so hard to find positive things in things sometimes. It really is. That's what I'm trying to do.
I like George Clooney. I'm not even. This isn't me bashing it. It was just he wasn't a fit for Batman, and he knows it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But you did like Nick Cage's Superman. I was like, well, this has to be like a plus for Ben, unless you knew going into it.
100%. No, I did not know that going in. Yeah. It was a big surprise going in. The moment I saw Christopher Reeves, I was like, oh, yikes. I don't know how I feel about this. This is just, it's not using old footage.
People have been upset about that. And I was like, well, no, they recreated, like, it is all.
The
whole point is that it's
everything.
Not just archive footage. Like, it's
exactly. It's the point it's doing the Paul Walker thing now.
Yeah.
Except without not that we know of, but the blessing of the family and the support of the family and all that kind of stuff. It's a weird violation of someone's rights.
Andy
it feels like
was in touch with every if the person was dead, like because
Machete,
he talks about talking, like having conversations with Nick Cage.
He talked to Snyder as well. He talked to Shannon, obviously Michael Shannon.
Well, that's because that's not AI. That's just Michael Shannon.
That's pure him.
In the movie.
But but to your point, like he's being very respectful to everyone involved.
I'm talking about this specifically, the cameos that happen in the Speed Force.
I see.
I think so. Obviously, you can't talk to Christopher Reeve, but I get the sense that what was said was that I don't know if it was explicitly said. It's just hearing him talk about it makes it seem like anyone who appears, someone signed off on that. So maybe, and I don't think it was just the studio wanted it, so we put it in. It was more like
I can't imagine that
they
would be
had
the
these
case.
conversations because
Yeah.
he said, yeah, Nick Cage was really nice about it or whatever,
Mhm.
leading me to believe that you would hopefully get this up. But again, maybe I'm giving him too much credit.
Maybe.
But it seems like it, because they had a longer list and not everyone made it in, that it was a process of, one, what makes sense, and two,
Right.
who like is okay with this.
That's I can appreciate that. I still feel uncomfortable with it. It's just someone's like an image
Yeah.
used after their death. But you know what's going to be interesting is what's going to happen with Bruce Willis, because apparently he just signed off his like an image and all that kind of stuff. He didn't?
No, that's a fake story.
That's a fake story. God damn it, man. Okay, I'm glad you're fact checking me. I'm glad someone's fact checking me. Okay. Well, I mean, that would be weird. Like that would be so weird.
Like, I get it, but like reading out what that says, it's like, what, he would never say this. If anyone knows this guy, this is nothing he would ever say.
Yeah,
he's very famously hard to work. I mean, we know more reasons why, but like when he wasn't deteriorating,
right,
it was very hard to work with because of how much control he wants over, and he doesn't want to just be everywhere. It's like, no, I know my worth, and we're doing it my way.
Yeah, that's I mean, that is that, but okay, cool. It's because this whole topic of like using someone's like an image after their death is just such a creepy thing to me. It's so creepy, and I don't like it. Because there was one director, I don't know, way back when, they were like, "Oh, there's this movie I'm writing, and the perfect actor is James Dean." I'm like, and he was actually serious about like finding AI ways of making it work, and I'm like, this is gross. Man, like, why are you casting someone that's dead? You can't find someone that's alive.
Agreed. Let's keep on the
terrible.
Flash, though. But
yeah. Sorry, a huge sidetrack derail on my part.
That's fair. I just want to make sure we get everything in about the Flash.
Yeah.
Is there? What else is there to talk? I feel like we've talked about everything, maybe in a disjointed way, but everything has been touched on, right?
For the most part, I think we touched upon everything. The Iris West stuff was very, very weak to me. So
because at one point they're like, she's
stuff.
not in it, and I was like, I guess that makes sense. She wasn't like, this Andy guy didn't pick her, but she was in it more than I thought she would be. But like, I think, like you, I found it confusing because it's like, they set up the whole like, oh, she's all about her job because she never says off the record. She didn't even give him that option. So you're like, oh, so she will use what he says. Like, like if he says anything, I was like, oh, like now's the time where you go, oh, okay, off the record, or like, don't worry, this will be off the record. It just never gives that. So he's right to not trust her on that. And I'm like, so then they're just people who know each other. But then he goes back in time and it's like, yeah, I got a date with her. And that he's kind of like, maybe I will date her. I'm like, did you like her before or not? I can't tell. And then she does apologize. I understand she comes back and she wants to apologize, and maybe she had this crush with him too, and she was like, oh, it's not stated, and I don't know that the movie is better if she states like, oh, you know what, I made a mistake. I picked my job over my feelings for you. But it's just like, again, maybe more runway on, like, because isn't her thing like, hey, didn't I see you the other day? And I'm like, so are they talking about
a few years ago? Like, when he did the whole, they 100%
is only in Snyderverse, like,
exactly. And I'm just like, what?
So like,
this is weird.
What is canon and what? And again, it doesn't matter. I don't care really, but it really does force you to be like, oh, you just got to know everything. Like you. I can't imagine people who don't have any reference to, hey, didn't I see you before? Like, if they have no point of reference for that, but they're like, this is good stuff. I think we should keep this in the movie. I think it only works if you're like, well, yeah, she was in Justice League and she got hired way back when, so I guess she has to be in this movie. Yeah, and she was in a scene that was cool, but it was cut. Yeah. So she's back here, which is good for the actress, but that line of dialogue makes no sense to anyone that's actually following canon shit. Yeah. No sense whatsoever. Yeah, you just have to, so yeah, the Iris stuff is weird. His work friends. See, I was actually thinking like him. Yeah, I was actually thinking about the work things thing. Is that one of the early points in time where they're like, no, this is a fixed moment where you three have to be friends or something like that?
just like in that moment, like that fixed moment where Supergirl and Batman have to die and all that kind of stuff. Like, is that their way of saying this is a fixed moment, but a small scale level of that where you will always be friends with these people and in these
he actually
universes?
seems friends with them in the other one. He doesn't. He just is like, I just
The
work with
roommate
these
one,
kids.
yeah,
Yeah, like the roommate one, those seem like his friends. Like
true.
in the work one, like in our Barry's timeline, it's like we're the same age, so we hang out, but like they're not
Right.
particularly.
Seems like he's getting bullied by them, by the way,
Yeah,
too.
like, I
It's
don't
just
think
like,
they
hey,
particularly like him.
yeah, they're just kind of, yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay,
Like especially the like because I would feel like if they're his friends, they would understand why he cares so much about making sure that people are actually guilty. But
yeah,
they're like, "Oh, what are you, idiot?" Like, and he's like, like he gets mad at them, and they're kind of like, "Okay, buddy." I'm like, "So are
yeah,
they his friends or?"
spazzes out on them.
But I
Like,
wouldn't even call it spazzing. Like, I'm like, yeah, like understandably angry at people who say they're your friends, being like, "Whoa, why are you taking so long?" And it's like, because my dad is wrongfully like accused of killing my mom, and I don't want that to happen to other people.
yeah. Well, I'm getting the sense that this Barry just hasn't connected with anyone in his work.
No, we know he hasn't
And
connected, but that's why I'm
right.
saying, like, I don't know that they're his friends.
I would 100% agree with you. I don't think they're our friends,
But
but like
people at work that are like, I
maybe
don't know, you're
it's a
around
fixed
our
thing where
age.
it's like these people will always be a
They'll
part of
always
your
be a
life or
part of
something
your
like
life,
that.
yeah.
But I do like how in the beginning where Barry's like, I got a date tonight with Iris. You know Iris, but do we marry her? I'm like, okay, cool. You're making young Barry look like there's an actual desire there, but then why is old Barry being like, I don't even know you? Like, this is stupid. It's a stupid
It's
thing. I don't
especially
like it.
since a defining thing from the comics about Iris West is she knows he's like she's a significant other that doesn't have to be gaslit. Like
Yes.
she actively knows that Barry is the Flash.
Yeah, and she's
And it's like,
supportive
just
of
embrace
it.
that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you had a chance in this movie to not, even if she wasn't like, even if they didn't explain it, to make it
Mhm.
clear she knows he's Flash.
Mhm.
And maybe that's what she was implying when she's like, "Didn't I see you when you saved me as the Flash?"
Mhm.
But it's just like, come on. Like,
Are you
what
gonna
are we doing
explain
with
how?
her? Like, it's
Yeah.
in a movie that's like really digging into the comics. Like, do the thing where she knows. Like, just
Yeah. Because this
and-
movie just does her
and
such a
avoid the
disservice.
gaslighting. Like,
Yeah, 100%. I'm like, Ezra, let's avoid gaslighting topics associated with Ezra in general. Like the idea of like,
oh,
no, we want
that was another issue I had. I didn't
Yeah.
really want to bring it up, but like when he's done saving the babies and he's talking to the nurse and he's like, you're gonna want to get some mental help with that. We're not really good with that stuff. And I was like, maybe you don't want Ezra the actor saying those things.
Don't put that in the movie. That is just so bad. I don't like it. It's and this is why I'm like, okay, Spider-Verse did it better, because when Spider-Verse goes like, I know when men of your generation have trouble opening up and making comments about mental health, you're like, okay, yeah, that belongs here. That makes sense. You're it's a younger generation talk that's more emotionally mature.
But this feels
than
like
an
the
older.
movie trying
But
to be like,
this is
hey, he's got mental issues.
exactly.
And
It
like,
just feels like we're bashing
sorry,
on
not
Ezra.
They
Yeah.
Ezra Miller, the actor.
It feels like, yeah, everyone's just crapping on Ezra. And I'm like, don't make them do that dialogue there. Like, that is just, I get that you're trying to promote mental health, and this movie is speaking to a lot of therapeutic aspects of what mental health is: reparenting yourself, talking to a younger version, seeing yourself through a different lens. All these things are therapy, and it's great. But then you set it up with that dialogue for someone that desperately needs that therapy and is not getting it to the degree that is needed right now or has been for the past however long.
I can't speak on what they have gotten and what they haven't gotten. I would say that the right choice was to, well, they didn't make this choice, was to not have them be part of the premiere or anything like that.
Yes.
Like, they have to sit this out.
Yep, 100%.
They basically terrorized a country for like, not country, a state like Hawaii for however long. Like, how many times did we hear of things they did and that was after he choked someone out in Iceland. It's like, sorry, after they choked someone out in Iceland. Like, the a lot was done. This is not a we heard one story, there's probably other stories. It's we were well aware of the stories that got airtime.
Yep. And we're going ahead with this anyways.
Yeah.
It's rough.
So that's all I can say is I don't know what help they've gotten. They might have gotten a bunch of it, but
Yeah.
I think part of being sensitive about this would be to not thrust them out and have pictures and people interviewing them, and then having the director be like, "And I would never do a sequel without them." And it's like, you can believe that, but maybe don't say that out loud. Maybe just let people
Let
digest this and some time pass.
Yeah, this is not like the whole cast of Guardians being like, no, we're with James Gunn kind of thing. This is like, no, this is bad, and this is ongoing. This is right now. James Gunn's thing was a while ago, and he was very stupid, and nobody knew that everything lives on Twitter. Like nobody knew the consequences of
he'd also
having
already
a stupid
apologized
tweet.
for it before.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that excuses what he did. It's just
it shows
there was enough time to pass for me, and who cares what I think, but my personal thing was I have seen a difference in James Gunn. I genuinely feel like,
look at Peacemaker.
Even if we've talked about this already, there are people like a Roseanne Barr that will just double down and be like, fuck you.
Absolutely.
There will be like Dave Chappelle's another person. They're like, I'll double down, fuck you.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not what James Gunn did. So there is an actual marked difference between
100%
when they were fucking up and now.
Yeah.
Not enough time has passed for Ezra.
I completely agree.
At least give time for Ezra to show a difference, and it can't be at the premiere. Like,
no,
give it some years. Like those were years for James Gunn, not a couple months, and we figured it out.
And here's one of the most important things about this too. James Gunn has already released the schedule of what is coming out from DC in the next little bit. There's no Flash mentioned there. So you didn't need to actually say anything about the Flash, like Ezra right now with that director, and just been like, okay, in phase 2, when he does announce it,
but just be like, James Gunn and say, we'll see.
Yeah, like just being non-committal to it. Like, play your cards close to your chest. But the idea of like, no, I'm standing behind them and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, you got to have accountability.
Give him that out that he could have had before the premiere and be like,
true. Just
commit to being like, he's doing Batman Brave and the Bold, and that way when he gets asked, like, oh, I'm focused on Batman Brave and the Bold right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anyway,
and
I would say we've talked it through. Should we?
Yeah, we talked it to death. But I do want to know, what are your, before we do rate it though, knowing that this director is attached to Brave and the Bold, what are your kind of first thoughts on that? Are you excited for it or not so much? How do you feel?
If it's true, and because most people noticed when James Gunn announced that he used the picture of Dick Grayson as Batman, not Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
I think that would be fun if they are actually going to do the Dick Grayson as Batman and Damian Wayne as Robin.
Right.
I'm excited about that, but other than that, yeah, like, I mean, he did Michael Keaton well, so that's something.
Yep. All right. Well, I think there was just the material here is, it's hard to write. It's Back to the Future.
Yeah.
I do like the idea here that they were just constantly like, you mean Eric Stoltz?
Yeah, that was good.
That was good, because I'm like, and that's one of those deep cut meta
was he
things.
saying Dipset in this movie? Every time he had to leave, was he going like, that's Dipset? I'm like, he's just gonna say that? Like, I feel like he can't say that, or Bruce or Barry shouldn't be able to say that.
What's Dipset? Is that like one of those Gen Z like slang things?
Gen Z. It is from like Cameron, Jules, Santana, and Jim Jones, the rappers. Dipset. When people be like, "Oh, let's leave. Let's Dipset."
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, let's rate this movie.
Yeah.
I will give it a 7.5. I think it is better than Shazam 2, but not by much. Anyway, that's my thing.
That's the point we're comparing Shazam. Well, I guess that is a good point of comparison. Yeah, it's a 7. It's a 7. It's just it's too simple, and it tries to be too big. But it's too simple. It's too simple of a movie.
Fair enough. All right.
And also, I forgot to say this. It relies too much on nostalgia from so many different properties to really make this movie. I don't like that.
We've been saying that the whole time.
Yeah,
you
it's way too much.
This is not a movie you could just show up to and enjoy the level even that we did.
Yeah.
Like no. But yeah.
Because I'm
Thank-
so sure half the audience is just confused as to why is Nick Cage Superman? Like, I'm so sure
Agreed.
half the audience is, but
Oh,
either way.
100%. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We're part of the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows like Bad Game Movies, Contra Zoom Pod, and Springfield Googleplex. So please go to thatshelf.com. You'll see those shows, our show, more shows. And you can go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten to hear older episodes of our show. And we're on all the podcast platforms. So please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, follow, do all that great stuff. Help us out that way. We're on Twitter and Instagram at TDFSpoiled. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. So you can get in touch with us as well. All right. We'll be back next week. I think, we're starting Secret Invasion. So that should be good.
We weren't supposed to tell him that. It's a secret.
No,
I'm joking. That was a terrible joke.
It was a secret, but it was spoiled rotten, so I spoiled the secret. Sorry.
Yeah, on brand, baby.
Exactly. Bye-bye.
Love it. Bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.